All right, what do we have in here today? This is a 1979 Lincoln Continental town car. What a treat. All right, so it is a Continental. Town car is actually just the trim. It wasn't till 1981 that the town car became the actual town car, such as this 2006 last generation town car going on right here. Basically, would it be a father-son, grandfather-grandson, father-son type of a deal going on here today? Oh man, this thing's like a time capsule from a totally different generation. Okay, pretty much. Never mind my damn cell phone deal. It almost kills me to have that on there because that's not original. I wanted to keep everything original, but something's got to be functional too. So anyways, what do we have going on with this thing? We have no air conditioning, and basically changing from hot to cold doesn't change anything. It stays on hot. Air conditioning compressor comes on. You can feel the lines. It is cooling, but we just don't have any hot air. And so basically, when troubleshooting something like this, obviously, like this isn't something that I work on very often, so I don't exactly know how this system works. But let's just obviously look at it. So the first thing, obviously is, we moving this thing back and forth. Now it feels like it's doing something. There's some resistance in here. It's not like it's just freewheeling, like say it's broken. Usually these things run and operate a cable of some sort. Now, the other thing I can tell in here is I can hear something moving back and forth back in this area. So that's a good thing. I'm gonna pop open that long ass hood we got going on there. Son of a gun. This type of car pretty much arrives before you do. Get that big old hood ornament up there just totally announcing your arrival. These things are sweet. I love these things. We're gonna pop open that hood and take a look and see what other components we might have going on in here that could contribute to this type of a problem. All right, you can do this one-handed. Oh, kudos to those springs right there. 400 cubic inch Ford engine. All right, so when I'm talking about, obviously there's your AC compressor. You want to see if this is, turning with this is always going to be turning. We want to make sure that's turning on with it. Feel the lines, usually in this area and stuff like that as far as being cold. But one other component that I noticed that is in here is this right here. These are the heater lines going into the heater core. And here's, this is, I don't know what's inlet. I would imagine this is the inlet because that's the one they put this valve on. And this is the outlet line going right here. It just goes on the back of the engine. Hot water or hot coolant goes through here, goes through your heater core and back in there. And obviously you see that that's got a vacuum line running to it. And this is the diaphragm. And so something in that control either adds vacuum, most likely, to this thing. I don't know what the default position of this is. We're going to find that out because we have to drain the cooling system anyways, because we have to do the water pump. I don't know if you can see that. Really, there we go. Focus. There, we got some light on the issue going on here. Yeah, we got a bad bearing. So we have to do the water pump, so we got to drain the coolant out anyways. And so what I'm going to do is take this valve apart and figure out what it does, what's its default position when there's no vacuum on it, and what's it supposed to do when you're selecting hot or cold. That way, you know, we all know that's what the point of making this video is to you know, figure this out and troubleshoot it. But basically what this is doing is when you would you know, select all the way cold, it's supposed to close this valve and stop the coolant flow to the heater core. And I don't know, you know, a lot of cars don't really do that anymore, but back then, you know, back in, you know, older cars and stuff, it helped them, you know, cool a lot better. And it could just be the way that the airflow goes through, because maybe the airflow flows through the heater core before the you know, the AC evaporator, which would be right here. I don't know exactly where the heater core, or I mean not heater core, the blower motor lives. It's obviously not out here. Yeah, I turned on the blower and was listening to it. I mean, it's in here somewhere. It's just not accessible outside of this box. You probably got to take this box off or something from inside. I don't know. That's not what we're dealing with on this car. I would just like to put out as much information as I possibly can. And what do you think about these Folgers coffee can things going on here? We got one over there. Charcoal canisters. It's just funny how they do that, but it does look like an old Folgers coffee can. I might actually do a review on this whole car. There's a lot of little quirks to these things that you just don't see in modern vehicles anymore nowadays, but yeah. All right, so basically your first step is like we did here. You know, we were playing with this. It feels like it's doing something. I can hear it doing something back in this area here, you know, with this open and stuff like that. I can hear something right back in there. So in troubleshooting this deal, you know, the first thing you want to do is just, you know, start doing some look over, and you just notice that, you know, you've got vacuum diaphragms here. You know, this is going to be changing something, and then you're going to have another one right back in there. That's going to be changing something. You got a big giant one, you know, and like I said, we're under the dash. It's the glove box there. You know, you got a big giant one here. This is changing something. And you probably got cables as well. You know, you got a lot of vacuum lines going on, you know, right there. And, you know, when you're just kind of looking this thing over, there's another diaphragm right there. It's going to change something because, you know, you've got a lot of choices on here as to what, you know, your economy vent and AC are both going to blow out of here. Economy is basically just, you know, it's like turning the vent. Well, it says vent right there. It's just turning the vent on without turning your AC compressor on. AC is just going to blow out of your ducts. High and low is going to blow out of your ducts and the floor. And then your heat is only going to blow out on the floor. And then obviously you've got a choice right here for your floor and your defrost, or just your defrost. And then over here obviously we've got a high and low for the fan speed. You know, it's like I said, just look everything over and, you know, look it over, see how this, you know, what the system works, and just look at things visually, and chances are you might, you know, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to pop this glove box out of here and get behind there and see what it is that I'm moving, that I can hear moving back over here. Alright, so we're back on the Continental. I know it's a same video, but it's being recorded in different sections, different days when I got time to work on it. And also as I learn things and try to figure things out. I mean, if I'd have filmed everything I'd done, we'd already been, you know, 3 hours into this video right now. So I've learned a little bit more, so let's keep going. Okay, I originally said I was going to pull this glove box off to see what's behind there, but it's hard to, might not be able to tell, but this light would just sit. All of this plastic, everything behind it, sorry, is all solid plastic. It's all part of the dash, so pulling the glove box isn't going to get you nowhere. So the next thing I was looking for doing troubleshooting is I was watching all of these vacuum actuators as I changed the positions on there, and was just watching them all. They all work, every single one of them, except this one. This big giant looking one here. I also took this cover off of here. It's got those, hold on a second. Okay, it's a little better light. It's got these notches that, you know, just go down in here like that, and then 2 screws, Phillips screws at the top to get that off, and that accesses everything here. So weird thing is, you know, and it's kind of dumb, but you take these screws out, that'll loosen up this controller. It doesn't come out this way because of these. Imagine if you unplugged it and you finagled it out of there. I also had the ashtray frame, which is right there. Had it taken out. There's a screw underneath of there, and then there's those 2 right there. That'll be able to get it down into this area. You know, this controller can get down in this area, you know, a little bit, so you can look at it. Obviously nothing's jumping out normal or abnormal. Like I said, you know, I can feel this doing something. When I had this out, I can see that the cable that it's attached to, you know, is moving back and forth. So everything here, you know, visually appears to be okay. The only thing that we do have going on is when you move this selector to the heat position, the fan shuts off. So, but any other position, the fan works just fine, even in all these different positions. But once you put it to heat, fan shuts off. So I don't know if that's an issue with this, or we got something else going on. So the next thing I did is I watched, you know, where the cable went into the back of here, and it goes in this direction, and then it just disappears up in the dash. And I did get to my hand up there. Well, let's just go back to what I did next. I wanted to figure out where this cable went and what you know, where is this blend door? Because this is, you know, this hot and cold, this is not what's working on this car. So we want to figure out, you know, where is this blend door, and is that a cable attached right to that blend door? So I'll show you that. All right, so the way I like to either repair or troubleshoot problems is take things apart least as possible. So I got to look in here, and you remember that valve that was right here? It was this guy right here. You know, it was in this position, had a vacuum line going to it. Now the default of this valve, when it's just sitting here like this, is open, which makes sense, because if you don't have any vacuum available to it, or you got a bad line or something, you would want this to be open, because the one thing that they want to have working is the defrost, is the only thing. So, you know, and I applied vacuum to this with a vacuum pump. This valve works, does what it's supposed to do, and those lines run right to the heater core. And so I thought, well, that heater core looks to be pretty easy to remove. Let's go ahead and remove it, and we'll see if we can see in there to get to the blend door, and that would avoid having to, you know, if I can see it, to be able to take all this apart here, just to get, you know, to try to figure out, you know, what does it do. And since I had to drain the coolant anyways, you know, we pulled the heater core lines off because we're going to be doing this water pump too. So this plate goes in place there. Your lines go right, your hoses go right here, you know, the nipples step up through here. You put your hoses on there. You got these little 5/16 head screws that, you know, there's a few different ones, and that plate, you know, comes right off. This bracket right here also mounts up here like this, but with it coming off, it allows you to move this hose out of the way. You have to move this hose. You have a wire that's stretched across over here that went down the back of the engine. You can just barely see the head of that. That's probably an oil pressure sensor. And yeah, pulled the heater core right out. And that's it right there. Actually, we might think about replacing this. As you can see, it's got a little bit of crusties in there, which possibly might mean that it's got a leak in a few places. So, all right, so from this angle in there, you can see the AC evaporator core, which is first in line. And so your blend door is right in there, and I will show you how it works. So right now I have a vacuum pump. You can get these at Harbor Freight, hooked onto that big gold colored actuator that we saw. All right, this is the best camera angle, so let me go over there and actuate that pump, and I'll show you that blend door. All right, you see that closed? That is in the cold position, so it would not allow air to come into this area, which has the heater core in it. I'll release the vacuum so we see it close back to the warm position. Okay, so we know that that blend door works if you provide it vacuum. Well, you're probably thinking, what's the baffling thing is? Well, that's a cable. Where does that cable go? And I did manage to get my hand up in there, and I did find, and I can feel with my fingers where that went to. And so the next step was, I don't remove that this plate here, because that only gets you just a tiny bit. You have to snap that back in place there, but you need to remove the top dash, and it's real easy. There's just screws in various places, one here, a couple all along there, and then two of them, one on each defroster window here, and the whole thing just lifts off. And what did we find? This right here. So here I am moving the actuator for hot and cold. That cable does run something. I was right. I wasn't hearing weird shit when I said I can hear something moving in this area. So this doesn't look factory. So these are vacuum lines, and this big giant vacuum line right here runs down to that big gold actuator there. And so how I assume this works and I'm gonna have to get a book and confirm it and everything, but this is just what I'm assuming as of right now is here's just a different look at what we got going on. You see the cable runs there, and then we got the vacuum lines, you know, but the cable, you know, it's, yeah, so. Okay, so what I'm thinking is going on here is this got what they call an automatic temperature control. See this area right here? You know, the dash would just sit on top of here. That wouldn't really be visible unless you looked underneath of here. But as you can see, it allows air to go into here, and this is probably some kind of a sensor, so that, you know, if you have this thing at 65 degrees and then you turn it over here to 75 degrees and it's still 65 degrees in this cabin, then that would allow the blend door to move as it needs to put the temperature at 75 degrees. So that's what I think is going on here. And I don't know if you know, this is obviously loose, and I don't know if this is what's going on with this particular problem, or if we have, you know, I don't see any electrical connectors in here, so I think it's kind of odd. But like I said, I'm going to get a book, you know, and it also doesn't appear that when you move the cable that anything happens besides moving this. And so, you know, because you can see that, you know, okay, so that gold thing is turning, so something's turning in there. We're just gonna have to figure out what it is. So that's where we're at on this project. I think I'm gonna go ahead and post this video so that's you know, because it's gonna be a little long, and the next videos will continue on with troubleshooting this and get this thing back to working correctly.